up next. Curry's Corner. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of B1039.
Bob. We have to get the proper intro here. Hold on.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah, I know, really. I forget what day of the week it is anymore. Okay. So,
Wednesday, 9 a.m.
Okay, so let's try this one. There we go.
Morning sun lights the day, Heiden bright on the way. Stories of a small town life. Sports and joy cut like a knife. Hot stove leaguing full chat. High school dreams and college stats. Wednesday morning, tales unfold. Memories and news retold. Tune in B1039. Curry's voice and life's sweet line. Sheriff Miller by his side. Lively bluegrass, hearts alive.
Well, neither of them is here this morning. So.
No, you are out of luck.
Yeah, so if you were hoping for Pat or for Sheriff Brian, no, not this morning.
Not
So-
this morning.
so-
I think they're both in Florida. Yeah, and they picked such a great time to go.
They did. But we're thinking spring here, too, here in Big Rapids. And we're going to introduce as our guest today. First off, we need to thank our sponsors.
Yes, Zot's Bar and Grill.
And also Big Rapids Tire. All right, so we're going Jackson, you might want to check your fold back there. Let me turn this off. And maybe that. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Nope, we're still echoing a little bit, but that's okay. Anyway, bring in good morning to Jackson Heiden. Jackson, of course, was the voice of Evart football here on B1039, and he is also the voice of the Traverse City Pittsburghers. So, Jackson, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be back.
I think you're folding. Oh, you know what? I mean, there we go. That's it. No, it's not. Okay. We'll keep working on that, but we're getting a little echo there. But anyway, thank you for joining us this morning. And we wanted to talk a little bit about local sports, of course, with the Evart Wildcats, as well as Traverse City and all of the other things you do. So, Jackson, maybe just take a moment and tell us how you got to where you are. I mean, what did you do? I kind of know because I've seen your Facebook posts and things like that. But what have you done to get you to the point where you're announcing football, you're announcing baseball, and many other things that we'll talk about?
Well, it's been a very weird road up to this point. That is for sure. I actually didn't even start out doing broadcasting, but I guess where I really knew I wanted to do this, I was listening, I think it was the summer of 2017. My dad and I, we were residing our house, and we're big Milwaukee Brewer fans. And if anybody knows anything about Brewers radio, it's Bob Uecker and Jeff Levering. And we were listening to a game one afternoon when we were working out in the house, and the Brewers came back. They walked it off the ninth, and the home run called by Jeff Levering, not Bob Uecker. Surprisingly, it really was like there's something about it that was like, this is what I want to do. And my entire life I've been super sports focused. It's been sports. Like I've constantly been bothered. I bothered my parents growing up every day with sports, and my dad is just kind of one of those things. He's like, the Brewers have always sucked my entire life until the last 6-7 years. But it was to the point where my parents, I remember one time my parents stopped letting me read the physical newspaper for like a punishment.
Oh, wow.
which sounds silly, but in
those pre-internet days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't even think that my childhood house had internet at the time. But it started there, and I went out through high school. I kept looking at going into broadcasting, but one thing I was always really good at was music. I was pretty musically inclined, and I did a bunch of things outside of school for music. And I started out. I went into music school. I started at Grand Rapids Community College, and about a semester into it, I was just getting burnt out. I got burnt out pretty quickly about 2 months in, and I was like, it's kind of wrecking my love for music. And
oh wow!
I was talking about.
When it becomes a discipline and something you have to do rather than something you want to do.
Yeah, because my big thing was like performing. I love performing, and I didn't hate practicing, but it wasn't my favorite. And it was one of those I started that same fall. I started teaching marching band, and I kind of got my fix for what I wanted to do because I was going into music education. I kind of got my fix for what I wanted to do in teaching marching band. So that kind of started everything. And then I remember taking an English 101 class, and I wrote this paper, and I remember getting a note from the professor, and she said, hey, she said, this is one of the best papers I've ever seen. She goes, if you don't mind, I want to share this with my future classes. And that really started the snowball effect. And, I talked with my parents. I talked to my now wife, or my girlfriend at the time, who's now wife. And she just graduated with a degree in music education. So,
that's cool. That's cool, yeah.
Yeah. And
what
so
was the paper about?
I can't tell you, to be honest. I don't even think I have the paper. But it was... I don't know. Anyway, so, I remember talking to things over, and I remember what my mom said. She goes, well, you've always been very sports driven. So why don't you go into like journalism or broadcasting? I said, you know what? I think you're right. So that next semester, I changed my major to multimedia journalism, and that kind of took off. And then after my 2 years at GRCC, I became the sports editor at the newspaper there. And after that, I transferred into Grand Valley State and kind of took off from there. And that kind of snowballed into kind of the events, kind of how we got to this point. Actually, it was the first class I ever took at Grand Valley. It was some writing class, and we had to do our final project was we had to interview somebody in our field in a spot that we wanted, and then write a paper about it. And so I interviewed Nate Wangler, who is the number 2 broadcaster for the West Michigan Whitecaps, the high A for the Detroit Tigers. And that kind of started a friendship a little bit and then also another connection we had there was I worked on the grounds crew for the Whitecaps summer. And I posted a picture on Snapchat, and a family friend of mine, he goes, hey, I know one of the broadcasters there. He's my butcher. I was like, oh, okay. And so,
small world. Everything kind of revolves back to each other there. Yeah.
Exactly. And this whole process I'm going through, and I'm like, it's just really showing me it's not what you know, it's who you know. And, so, I'm going through this whole process, and, and eventually I'm on the phone with Nate, and he goes, this is our first ever phone conversation. And he goes, hey, how about you come out to Cornerstone University in Grand Rapids, and how about you come announce some volleyball with me? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, of course, I'll be there. And that was the beginning of everything. And I think my first ever broadcast on a volleyball, I said 2 words. I was so scared behind the mic, and then it just kind of snowballed into more events. Eventually, I was mainly the number 2 guy for Cornerstone for the first year, and then year 2 and year 3, year 2, I became more the number 1 except for basketball. And then this last year, or this current year, I've been more the number 1 across all campus. And that snowballed into Traverse City. Nate helped me get in there, and at Traverse City, that's how I got in contact with you guys.
Yeah,
so.
everything comes around, but it's an interesting thing. First off, with the journalism, were you a stats hound always?
Stat hound? Yeah, pretty much. I loved looking at stats. I loved overthinking about stats, especially with my team. I'd look at stats, and I'd tell my dad, it'd be like, oh, we got this advantage, and he'd be like, it's the Brewers. We're not gonna. Don't get your hopes up. But yeah, it's very, very stat hound. And then I learned, in writing, it's not all about stats. So, that kind of weaned off.
How do you transfer those stats out into real life and making it relatable to the listener, right?
Well, I think a lot of it, especially what I learned in my time at Cornerstone Athletics, they're not like a powerhouse, And a lot of their basketball programs are really good, and their volleyball programs are really good. But everything else, it's kind of mediocre. And so you kind of have to find these things to turn it into a positive thing. Like right now, the Cornerstone baseball team, they're 2-24 or something like that. Not great. And my first 4 games of the season for Cornerstone this year, Cornerstone had the lead and they blew it in the last inning.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find these stats, and you kind of got to twist it in a way to kind of give people hope, whether they're actually listening to you or not. But you kind of got to give them a false sense of positivity, in my opinion, anyway.
I think that's probably the hardest thing for a sports announcer and a broadcast announcer to learn is how to keep it at least somewhat positive. Because I hear a lot of times people just bashing their teams. If they're not doing well, they're the first ones.
Oh, they're yelling at the coaches, and during the game, it's like, stop.
Yeah.
The listeners don't want to hear that.
Especially when there are kids involved.
Yeah, definitely. And I've spent time as a MHSAA official. I umpired high school baseball throughout college. It helped me pay my way through college, and seeing how some of those parents react. It's and it's not saying they don't have a chance, but it's like every kid is going pro. Like treat my kid with absolute respect. And I don't know if you guys saw the clip going around like a month or two ago down in, I think it was it Benton Harbor, Berrien Springs area, with the basketball official getting pelted with things after a playoff game. And it's like, this is just, it's not okay. And some of those parents, it's just tough. I mean, there's plenty of times, even in college basketball, when I announced this past winter, I think, for women's basketball, we had 3 ejections of fans who were just irate about something, and it was just, we had to mute the mic because there were some explicitives. So yeah.
You know what happens? I think that the parents are living vicariously through their kids, the glorious sports career they never had, and so okay, I'm going to put my kid out there. That's one, and the other thing is, okay, I'm not going to be able to be successful unless my kid gets a free ride somewhere.
Oh, 100%. And I went to Grant High School, and another small town, and I feel like small towns, it's a big, you see that a lot. And I know specifically my baseball coach growing up, he was a big product of that, and it was hard. And my brother and I both were hurt from that. It was like, you see these coaches' kids and stuff like that being played over some other kids that are definitely better, and it hurts sometimes. So,
But that's something they need to learn in life, that sometimes life's not fair too. So there's that dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think we're going to take a quick break here for our sponsors. Hopefully, maybe get rid of this little echo thing we got going on here, because I have to take my headphones off, else I get thrown. But anyway, Jackson will be back in just a couple of minutes right here on Curry's Hot Stove League on B1039. Come say cheers at Zott's Bar and Grill in Big Rapids. Great food, great prices, and great people, where everybody knows your name. Zott's, people's choice for best soup. You don't want to miss their award-winning burgers and chili as well. Originally opened in 1933 and serving it up ever since. Seasonal beers on tap. Located at 732 North State Street in Big Rapids. Roxanne and Doug at Zott's Bar and Grill are proud sponsors of the Signature Player of the Week for the Curry's Hot Stove League every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. When was the last time you checked your tires? At Big Rapids Tire, they know how important it is to keep your ride smooth, safe, and reliable. Whether you're cruising down the highway or navigating tough weather, a fresh set of tires ensures you're ready for anything. Their expert team will help you find the perfect tires for your car and get you back on the road with confidence. Brakes, alignments, struts, and shocks, they do those as well. Don't wait for a blowout, or worse, visit Big Rapids Tire for unbeatable prices, quality, and peace of mind. Big Rapids Tire, Northland Drive, just north of town. And we are back on Curry's Hot Stove League here on Wednesday morning.
So is your best friend Jen and Bob Aldridge substituting for Sheriff Brian Miller and Pat Curry, who are on vacation.
Nice.
Woo-hoo, lucky them.
Yeah.
But we're so blessed because we have Jackson Heiden as our guest today, and he is our play-by-play guy for Evart football, and we are so great that he has joined our team to do this. I know, Jackson, you're going to find this big ESPN job one of these days and just move on. And I'm just grateful that you started with us, and I appreciate it. And you're going to be joining us this fall for Evart football, right?
That's the plan as of right now, unless I get something in between now and then. But the way job markets has been, I'll be there. So
Well, we're going to hold on to you as long as we possibly can. We know you're going to go on to bigger and better things, but as long as I've got you, we want you to continue with our football program here at B1039. And if anybody is listening right now and you want to sponsor the football games, we just give us a call here and we'll give you all the information that you need. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Jackson, did you, when you first started doing play-by-plays, obviously you got that one opportunity for volleyball, but did you practice? I mean, you hear about these kids, I practice in my room X number of times, or how did that all start?
I never really practiced. I don't know, it sounds weird, but I always felt awkward doing it by myself. I would do it in my head, which I know isn't the real thing, but it was just kind of one of those things that I just had to go behind the mic and flat out fail, and then I'll figure it out as I go. And I take constructive criticism pretty well, and so I'm constantly asking people for feedback. I've got my main 3 guys that I ask all the time who are pretty high up in the broadcasting world, and I constantly am always changing things. But no, I never did really practice things. I probably should have. Before I started.
No, you're great at what you do. I mean, it just, from someone who doesn't do play-by-play, I couldn't do it. Bob, could you do it?
No, I couldn't. I did color a couple of times for hockey here with Scott Roman at the time, and got through that. But I think I have a phobia because the first time I was ever on a commercial radio station, our high school group was invited to do color commentary for the high school game, and I got on mic, and I didn't know football from anything, and I just completely blanked. It was rather embarrassing, but so I think that was the end of my sports calling career. I could do it in a pinch, but definitely not play-by-play, because you know what? The first thing, and as Jack said, you got to know the rules. You got to know the game inside out. You have to know the nuances, and you have to know what's happening on the field from play to play and be able to analyze it.
Yeah, well, and here, before I get to that, I mean, I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but did you guys know that game, week 1 of the football season, that was the first time I ever announced football?
Yeah, we knew that. Yeah.
We knew that, yeah.
We knew you wanted to try it out and say, yeah, why not? And I mean, Rich Spicer from our stations up in Cadillac spoke very highly of you because you two worked on Pitt-Spitters games together. And so he says, yeah, I got the guy. And we trust Rich and his judgment, so we didn't think there would be a problem, and we knew you would get through it. But you stepped right up to the microphone, and it was like you had been doing it for years.
Yeah, and I think kind of going back to the practicing question, I don't practice as much more. I listen to other people before I do things. So, I grew up a big Wisconsin sports fan despite growing up in West Michigan, and Matt LePay, the Wisconsin Badgers play-by-play, I listened back to probably the entire season's worth, the 2023 football season worth of tape that he did, and I was just taking notes down. I was like, this is how he comes in and out, this is how he does this, and this is how he describes plays. And I've always been a really big football fan, but yeah, going back to your rules thing, that's where I felt like being an umpire, at least in baseball, helped me out a lot. Well, when it switched to broadcasting, is like I knew all these little details that you need to know. And same with football, there's certain things. There's a couple of things that I definitely struggled on in terms of plays, like not knowing. I knew most of the hand motions, like when there's a penalty and stuff like that, but there were some of them that we'd get every now and then that'd be like, I have no idea. So you just kind of got to come up with it on the spot, and as long as you speak confidently, people will listen.
I think another thing is knowing the players beneath the numbers. You see the number and you can instantly correlate it with the player. I know we've had some instances here where they were changing out numbers and changing out uniforms, and it got very confusing because we didn't get the updated sheet on that, and so that definitely makes it a challenge, especially on the high school level.
Oh, it's a huge challenge at the high school level, especially because there's very rarely are you going to get a high school that puts together stuff for media like colleges do, And so most of the time, I would have the list of Evart names because Ben Bryant, the AD up at Evart, he would help me out all that. He was very helpful through my first season, and very thankful for him. But when we travel or play these other teams, I wouldn't get the roster until I showed up at the field. So you're studying. You kind of got to quickly study the main players. So who's the quarterback, who's the running back, who's maybe a couple of the receivers, and that's basically what I went off of all summer. And but one thing that I kind of came to realize is how much fun announcing football was, and it was almost kind of like rapping a little bit. It felt like I was talking a million words a minute, but it would flow. I felt like there was times where I would really get into a flow, and I would just never stop talking from the minute we went live till the last second of the football game, and it was a lot of fun. And the names too. It's always fun when you have a difficult name and then you can just rattle it off. I love those names. I love those type of names, and I don't know. It really gets me going.
What would you say to somebody who is kind of maybe 10 years behind you, listening to this, going, "I want to do that"? What's the biggest piece of advice you would give somebody?
Pay attention to listen to more. Depends on what field you want to go to. Listen to whatever you want to do, and take notes. That's how it helped me a lot. Like I said, I listen to listen to your favorite broadcasters and take notes about every little detail. Not every word he says, but think of things like, how does he come in and out of breaks? How does he describe these big plays? How does he flow? What are the sequences with things, with football? This one especially, before every play, you're trying to just paint a picture in everybody's head before every play. And so you got to describe where are the receivers on the field, right? So normally I'd go, there's two receivers on the left, two on the right, quarterback in the shotgun, running back to his right. That was a typical formation for Evart, right? Or sometimes so explain where that is. Explain, is the defense crouched up? You got to look at these little things and listen to your favorite broadcasters and about how they describe those things and their flow, and try to almost don't mimic their big sayings, their key calls, but try to replicate that as best as you can.
One thing that we had to give you really a lot of respect, because we've kind of given you a trial by fire where you're doing this on your own. I mean, most of these football teams, they have play-by-play and a color guy or a color girl, and the fact that you're able to handle it on your own without any input from us is for 2 hours. That's a credit to your abilities.
Yeah, and honestly, I love it. I love doing it by myself. I feel like it gives me more to talk about. It's less dead air. It's less awkward air, if you will. I don't mind having a number two guy. In fact, but rarely
maybe
do I
ever. You'll bring some folks up or whatever.
Yeah, and I've got friends and stuff that are in this field that live in the area, and I think they might join me and stuff. But yeah, it's fun, and it is a different task, because there's plus and there's benefits and there's not benefits when it comes to having a color guy. The color guy definitely helps you fill in some gaps. It gives you a break from talking, because by the end of the first quarter, my throat is dry and I'm almost out of water for the game. So
But to send you up there with a case.
Yeah, and football, it's less color guy. Baseball, I feel like, is where you need a color guy more, especially when those games prolong, and
right. There's a lot more lull between the plays.
A lot more lull, and it's just kind of like I say, I get to go talk for a 3-hour podcast. Is kind of what I like to tell people. It's
all right. So you've done a multitude of sports. Which one is the hardest, and which one's the easiest? And then we're going to ask you what your favorite is.
Oh, I think every sport's got their own little thing. The hardest? Honestly, I'd say baseball probably is. Actually, I don't know. Everybody's got their hardest things.
Everything has a different dynamic.
Yeah, I love baseball. Baseball is my favorite sport. I will always want to do baseball for as long as I live. But soccer is pretty difficult, mainly because I don't know the sport very well. This past winter, I've learned a lot about it. Thank you, Ted Lasso. But soccer's hard because there's not a lot of action, and there's you kind of gotta have the happy medium of describing the players on the field and just telling stories for 90 minutes, and it's it's hard. It is really hard, especially if you don't know the sport as well. So know the basics of the game.
Have you ever done games for lack of a better word, exotic sports that aren't what you would normally hear, or have you done like curling or anything like that?
I guess the only one that I would say is lacrosse. That's not.
Explain that a little bit, because I'm from New York, so I know what lacrosse is, but folks up here, they're not really as familiar with it.
So I filled in and I announced lacrosse a couple weeks ago for Grand Valley, and I was talking with my producer there, and he was saying, I said, do you know, I was like, and I've announced high school lacrosse before, but it was kind of difficult because it's like rules and stuff. And I think because unless you're from a super, super rich school, you don't have lacrosse. So many West Michigan schools don't have lacrosse unless you're like a Jenison High School, Hudsonville, like a Grand Rapids Catholic or Grand Rapids Christian. Like the super, super big schools with a lot of money usually have it. But like schools like, Big Rapids or Everett or Grant, those aren't. They're going to have your main sports, and that's pretty much it.
But Jen was closer to that than I was, because she's from upstate New York, and up there they had Cornell, they had Syracuse University, and they had really strong lacrosse programs. But like you say, they're more often the Ivy League and the wealthier schools, right, Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people in this area, or at least West Michigan anyway, are going to opt more towards hockey, even though that's not a big high school sport in Michigan. Again, a lot of the richer schools have hockey. But those same schools are also going to have lacrosse. But I mean, our Grant didn't have a hockey program, but I knew a couple kids that played on travel hockey teams and stuff like that throughout high school.
Well, it's going to be interesting here because we have a new hockey coach at Ferris who came from Long Island University. So I've already put out the gauntlet that if he needs a tour and where all the good Long Island stuff, where you can get close to Long Island, but being in Big Rapids, I can give him some hints there. But it's looking up for the Ferris hockey squad.
Yeah, I mean it's looking good for him. Again, I don't follow hockey as much, but I do keep an eye on some of like the local teams because I think it's pretty cool that Ferris State has a Division I, hockey program. But for Brett Riley, he coming off his best season with Long Island, going 2012-2. And, he comes from a phenomenal coaching background. Both his grandfather and his dad, both head coaches for Army, which, again, I didn't learn until very recently that they had a hockey team. But, his grandfather winning an Olympic medal, playing on the Team USA back in the 40s, and then coaching them to a gold medal later in the 60s. And I don't know. I think it's looking up for them. Ferris State definitely needed to get things back on track after their successes in the early to mid 2010s.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that. It's going to be an exciting time. So wish him the best of luck as he acclimates to Big Rapids. But let's, Jen, you have something else?
I was just going to say, let's hear some predictions from the great Jackson Heiden on some of these teams. Where do you see them ending up?
Hockey? Again, I don't follow hockey.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Well, no, I mean,
we're going to move up to on to the next on his agenda, and that's the Traverse City Pitspitters.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And so we're going to talk baseball for a few minutes, and once again, just refresh us on how you got involved with the Pitspitters.
Yeah. So let's see, 2023. I was just finishing up my junior year / first year at Grand Valley, and one of the requirements to graduate is to have an internship, and I needed one of those very badly. And I knew I wanted to do play-by-play in baseball, and by the time I started looking for internships, I was about a month or two too late because a lot of those play-by-play positions open up around September, October, November area, or that time frame, and so nobody was hiring. And so I was between the Pitspitters because I had a little communication between them and ESPN Milwaukee, and Milwaukee kind of ghosted me, for lack of a better term, and
Uke didn't want to talk to you.
I guess not. And so I'm literally, I just finished my last exam. And I needed an internship. Otherwise, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to graduate. And I had some communication with the now former assistant GM, Sam Connell, up at the Pitspitters, because Nate knew him pretty well. And he he went on vacation for like a month, so I didn't hear from Traverse City for a while. Well, somebody once told me, like, sometimes you just got to call people. So I called the front office up there. I went to voicemail, and then about a half hour later, I get a call, and it's the general manager now, Jacqueline Holm. And we did an interview on the spot, and she was like, hey, I listened to your tapes. You sound good. She goes, we'd love to have you out there. I kid you not, the interview maybe lasted 5 minutes.
Wow.
And she was like,
that's the way these things go, isn't it?
yeah. And I was like, are you kidding? I was like, I hung up the phone. I go, are you serious? Like, did that just happen? I was like, I didn't even, like, I was all nerved up for nothing. Like, that was the easiest phone call of my life. And, yeah, so that started things, and I wasn't going to say anything until I got the contract in my hands, and a week later I finally got the contract. I signed it, and I started my first season up there. And
Nice.
It's been such a blessing to be up there. I mean, Traverse City, there's no better other place to be, especially in the Northwoods League. And Jacqueline has just been so good to me over my time there. I just re-signed for year 3 up there, and it's so exciting. I love being up there. Year 2 was a big learning curve for me to not, my first year, the Spitters saw a lot of success. We fell a game short of making the World Series, and we probably would have won the whole thing too, but we lost a 4-hour slugfest 15-14 in the
Wow.
championship game, and that was probably the most heartbreak that I've experienced with a team. It's different when you're a part of it rather than watching your team do it. And came back year 2, a lot of learning curves for me, just trying to not let the outcome affect my attitude, which I struggled with a lot, and realizing, hey, you're not here to win games, you're here to call the games, so, and I had a great guy, as you said, Rich Spicer, one of the producers up there, and Cole Emery up there as well. Both of those guys just so good to me all season last year, and I'm excited to go back to working with them again this summer. And they both helped me throughout last season, and this year I'm really excited. We got a lot of exciting things that we tried out last year that we're looking to do more for full-time this year on our broadcast, and looking to start a little Pit Spitters based podcast, and just a bunch of exciting things coming down the tube. And yeah, it's been great up there. There's no place I'd rather be.
So give us your best. Where does Pit Spitters end up after year 3? Where are they at?
Well, I'm hoping they get back to the playoffs, because last year they snapped their 6 years in a row of making the playoffs. So, and they were, their first season as a baseball club, they started in 2019, and they didn't miss the playoffs until last year. So hoping to get back to there. I think we have a pretty good roster. I'm looking at the roster right now, and we're returning a lot of our main players, and some Central Michigan guys too that are our main players. And yeah, I think we have a nice team. I think we're going to be looking good. Returning a lot of veteran pitching, and we got a new head coach for the first time ever. Todd Reed replacing Joshua Rebant. Rebant was just a phenomenal head coach, top 10 all time in wins in the Northwoods League, and he took over an assistant coaching spot with Western Michigan baseball team, and yeah, Todd Reed, best person to replace it. He was the bench coach under Josh for many years, and Coach T is going to have that ball club coming out swinging here in about a month or two. So yeah, I think we gotta beat the team out of Kalamazoo, the Growlers. They're always a pain in the rear to the Pit Spitters, but if we can win either the first or second half, we can make the playoffs, and I think we could do that.
All right. Well, we're talking to Jackson Heiden, who's the voice of the Traverse City Pit Spitters, as well as on B1039 of the Evart Wildcats football. So maybe just a brief synopsis of what the difference is between the Pit Spitters and, let's say, the Whitecaps. Everybody sees minor leagues and that kind of, and it's a whole different world. You're getting a lot of the college students playing there, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, it's such a funny thing for people that don't understand the landscape of baseball. I kind of just tell people that, I announce minor league baseball because it's easier than explaining what summer collegiate baseball is.
Right.
Now we are affiliated with the West Michigan Whitecaps, same ownership group, but we are not a professional baseball team. Of course, people remember the Traverse City Beach Bums. That was a professional baseball team out of the Frontier League. But
Gotcha.
The Pit Spitters are a summer collegiate wood bat team, part of the North Woods League. This North Woods League team stretches from all the way over to Royal Oak, Michigan, all the way out to South Dakota, North Dakota area. Actually, I believe there's a team out in Montana now, too. But it's separated into two divisions, the Great Plains and the Great Lakes division. Pit Spitters are in the Great Lakes division. In each of those divisions, there's an East and West subdivision. The Pit Spitters are in the East division. And, so you get guys from all over the country, all the way from Division I down to NAIA. So, like we got guys from Central Michigan, we had guys from Arizona, Clemson University, Wofford College, Georgia Tech University, and then we get guys from Western, Eastern, Aquinas College, insert little college there. We get guys from all over the place. I can't tell you how many colleges that I've learned that have existed since I started this job.
Well, it's good to see that the programs are strong in those schools.
Yeah, definitely. And so every coach has to basically recruit like they're a college coach. And they create connections with these head coaches, and and they go on like that, and they play. It's a 72-game season. It starts right around Memorial Day.
Right.
And it lasts until about mid-August, and 72-game sprint. So you start, and you probably only have 2 off days the entire season, minus the All-Star break, which is a 3-game stretch. Yeah. And I think last year we had a stretch that we played. What was it? 31 games in 30 days or something like that. Wow. And I mean, it's constant, and you travel on buses, and you go all over the Midwest. So our division is, of course, us, Royal Oak, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Kokomo. They dropped out of the league. But there used to be Kokomo, and then Rockford, Illinois, and Kenosha, Wisconsin. That is our division. And then on the west side, you got teams. It's mainly all Wisconsin teams. You got like Wisconsin Rapids, Fond du Lac, Green Bay. Teams up in like northern Wisconsin. So, these road trips are long. Our shortest road bus ride, I think, is 4 hours, and that's to Kalamazoo. It's long summers, long bus rides, but it's fun, and it's a good product. What the Pit Spitters, if you go to a Pit Spitters game, you're gonna get the feel of as if it's a professional ball game. You get the entertainment, you get quality baseball. The field looks amazing. I mean, the views up there are amazing. The staff is very professional. The food around the ballpark is amazing. And it's college baseball, but it's summer league. And I mean, if you can't make it to a Whitecaps game or a Tigers game, I would say that's a pretty good backup option.
And it's a nice, easy evening. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and you can bring the family, and it doesn't bust the wallet either.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I think our most expensive ticket's like $20. And that's probably sitting behind home plate.
That's a beer in Comerica.
Yeah, I know. And oh man, $16 for a beer, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing, and I think everybody should come up. And I always do. If we win, I do interviews down on the field that go across the stadium and on the video board, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and yeah.
I love it. I mean, the minor league teams, they work so much harder to make it a great fan experience. And on the farthest end of that is this phenomenon called banana ball. I don't know how familiar you are with that.
Yeah, I'm a little familiar with it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to it. I don't really have any interest in wanting to go. Maybe it just makes me a baseball purist, but
everybody's on a different level. I mean, I'll give them Jesse Cole is the owner of that team. It's just what they're doing just to make it good for the fans.
It's a different type of entertainment, Bob. Though it's baseball, but it really isn't. It's
the Globetrotters, but not the Globetrotters.
Right, exactly.
And I think it's great for young kids, like to get them into baseball. I think it's phenomenal, but. For me, I'd rather go watch a pitching duel in the minor leagues. I don't know.
With bunts and all the other things that come with that.
Yeah, and I mean, but the Savannah Bananas, they are coming to West Michigan. They are playing. They're doing a series in at the Wildcats Stadium. For like a week or something like that. So
we'll see how that goes. But I mean, if it gets people's interest peaked in baseball, that's a good thing, I guess.
Oh, 100%. And I some people say baseball is dead, but I think it's more alive than it ever has been. I think more people are paying attention to it than ever. In fact, I had a friend yesterday who hit me up and he asked me how to watch the Tigers, and he goes, the playoffs really got me into it last year, and he's been dogging on baseball ever since I knew him. So, I think it's cool, and I think a lot of the additions of pitch clock and I was very against pitch clock to begin with, but since broadcasting, it makes my life way easier.
There you go. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about Evart, and we're going to talk about some of your other announcing triumphs, including Ford Field. So we'll be back and talk about that coming up next on Curry's Hot Stove League on B1039. If I can get this to work. There we go. Come say cheers at Zott's Bar and Grill in Big Rapids. Great food, great prices, and great people, where everybody knows your name. Zott's, people's choice for best soup. You don't want to miss their award-winning burgers and chili as well. Originally opened in 1933 and serving it up ever since. Seasonal beers on tap. Located at 732 North State Street in Big Rapids. Roxanne and Doug at Zott's Bar and Grill are proud sponsors of the Signature Player of the Week for the Curry's Hot Stove League every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. When was the last time you checked your tires? At Big Rapids Tire, they know how important it is to keep your ride smooth, safe, and reliable. Whether you're cruising down the highway or navigating tough weather, a fresh set of tires ensures you're ready for anything. Their expert team will help you find the perfect tires for your car and get you back on the road with confidence. Brakes, alignments, struts, and shocks, they do those as well. Don't wait for a blowout, or worse, visit Big Rapids Tire for unbeatable prices, quality, and peace of mind. Big Rapids Tire, Northland Drive, just north of town. All right, Curry's Hot Stove League here on B1039 with our guest Jackson Heiden, the voice of Evart Wildcat football here on B1039. So let's jump ahead a few months, Jackson, and get into football season. What are you seeing for the Evart Wildcats this year?
Well, I'm seeing a more I'm seeing a completely different team than last year. Ben Bryant was his first season last year with Evart, and they went 6-4. It was a pretty good season. However, it was offense or bust. I mean, their defense was very lackluster. It showed in a lot of their games. Yeah, they won 6 games, which was enough to make them into the playoffs, but they gave up a ton of points. And I think for them, I think if he can find a way to even out the defense and keep the high-powered offense, I think this team is going to be looking good. And they're returning a lot of their big guys too, especially their quarterback Heiden Anderson. And I think it's going to be good. Hopefully they don't get a bad draw like they did against North Muskegon, because that was a tough playoff loss.
Sometimes you hit a brick wall like that, right?
Yeah, that was tough. That was definitely tough. But I think this team is going to be coming in better, and they've got a really good football program up there in Evart. It's a program that I've heard for many years, even before I started announcing for them, and I think they'll put together more wins than they've had losses, and less losses than last year. I think that is definitely a thing they can do.
Our hopes are high for them, and of course I know they have the community support, and they put a lot of folks in the stands there.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely, yeah.
The sponsors the sponsors really took to Evart being on the radio for the first time ever, whole season. So.
It's always a good thing when we can support our communities here in Mecosta and Osceola County. So we appreciate everybody in Evart who supported them. And I guess our first game will be, late August or early September, I guess.
Yeah, schedules don't come out, I don't think, until probably middle of the summer or so. So we won't know for sure, but last year it was August 29th. So I think it was a Thursday night. It was right before Labor Day weekend. So it'll probably be that Thursday before Labor Day, and we'll get things going. They'll probably be on the road to start. Usually they take the same schedule and they just flip whether they're home or away. So a lot more away games and a lot more reasons to make you listen next year.
Good deal. So once again, if you want to be a part of it, you can get in touch with your best friend Jen. 796-1103 is the number to call. So feel free to call. And before we go, Jackson, we just wanted to talk about something else that you do in your announcing wheelhouse, and that is the marching bands, which is something kind of close to my heart. I love the marching bands. We're bringing the marching band back to Ferris State University this fall. Looking forward to seeing that. But also the bigger leagues like DCI, which is just this major thing that ends up being in Indianapolis. But you have something to do with that with the Michigan marching bands, right? That's right.
Yeah. So MCBA, the Michigan Competing Bands Association, that's kind of actually, that was my first real gig, I guess, in broadcasting. I just public address announce. I don't do anything like play-by-play or anything, obviously, because I don't think you can with marching band. But no, it's fun. I've been a part of the marching band community since 2015. I started when I was 8th grade. We were a competitive band. We would qualify for state finals and go perform at Ford Field. I did that all the way through my senior year. And going into my senior year, I marched DCI, so Drum Corps International, and that's where I met my wife. And yeah, we did the whole thing, a tour in the entire country and stuff like that. And yeah, and the high school I taught at, so Kent City High School, my wife's father is the band director there, and he needed a PA announcer for his show, and so he asked me to do it. And I've been doing his shows for as long as I can remember, so for is it 5 years now, I guess. And he does indoor shows in the winter as well, and I actually just did one a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, and I did all but one show in West Michigan this past fall, which is every Saturday. It's an all day affair, and then they asked me to be kind of a backup announcer for state finals at Ford Field. So I got to sit up in the box for 16 hours on that Saturday. So,
and hearing some good bands too.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, definitely, and it's good. It's good. It's kind of a way to give back. I stepped away from teaching after the 2023-24 year, just because I wanted to focus more on broadcasting, and this kind of still gives me that little marching band satisfaction. But I'll always be around it because my wife's a band director. She's a co-director, and she's going to be a band director here shortly, and yeah, and I'll always be around it. And what the groups that she puts together are so good, and it's always so much fun to watch every year.
That's great. I mean, it's always fun to watch. Now, when you do the announcing for there, do you do more of the "ladies and gentlemen," or is it more in your natural voice?
I always try to do my natural voice, but yeah, sometimes it's always very tempting to really dig deep. And sometimes I'll mess around with it in the car ride there. And, and it's just silly, but
hey, it's showmanship,
Yeah, yes and no. And my favorite thing is, when people are when the bands start entering the field, you always say, "Oh, joining us from blah 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 blah," right? And my favorite is I always come in so loud that I always make the entire stands jump, and it's so
excellent.
Funny.
I love that.
Yeah. Everybody gets so scared. It's so funny.
Well, if you can make the beams rattle,
Oh yeah. Oh
great.
yeah, definitely.
Love that. So before we leave, crystal ball, 5 or 10 years, we're gonna put you on the spot. Where do you see Jackson Heiden?
Ideally, minor league baseball, and hopefully on the side, some sports radio. That is my ideal goal. Just radio in the morning, baseball at night, repeat. That would be ideal. Nice. And then hopefully in the winter be a part of some college that has, that allows me to do basketball full time. And yeah, that is my ideal situation.
Well, Jackson, Jen, any other questions that you have?
No, I just love hearing people's dreams. I find it fascinating when people say, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be. And I find it interesting because I know you will do what you plan out I'm planning on doing, and I just know you're going to be great. And I want to be able to say he worked for us for a little bit.
I think I said to Jackson before, with the station where I used to work with back in New York, we had a guy from Syracuse University who came and worked with us for one summer, long before I was with the station. And then he left that station. He finished up at Syracuse and had a little career. His name was Marv Albert. So
see, that could be Jackson Heiden.
It could be. Just don't bite anything.
And I couldn't be more thankful for you guys there too. I mean, this is giving me such a big platform too, and especially at the football level. And it's so cool. I think it was after the game up in Harrison for Evart. I went down on the field because Evart just they walked it off to make the playoffs, and I went down there, and everybody knew who I was, and I feel like I never showed face at all. That was the first time I showed face on the field to anybody. Like Ben knew who I was, and I think a couple of players knew who I was, but everybody knew who I was, and they were coming up to me and they were talking to me, and I don't know. It was such a great feeling. I think I had a smile on my face for like the next hour, but I just could not be more thankful for what you guys do and what you guys allow me to do, and I'm definitely looking forward to this fall and continuing to grow.
Well, if you need any motivation, we'll just introduce you to our play-by-play guy up in Cadillac, Billy Barnett, who is so beloved up there.
Oh.
It's crazy. I mean, I went to a thing in Cadillac, and people didn't know the station as much as they knew Billy B. And to be at that level, to be so beloved in the community, what a great feeling that has to be.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's especially. I don't know. I see it a lot at the Pit Spitters too. I always have a lot of parents requesting to follow me on social media, and I'm like, "Who is this?" And then I see it, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then, these parents, I forget that I'm on TV for about 5 minutes every night, but it means people are tuning in from the very first, from my pregame show, and these people who are from across the country, they'll come to these games up in Traverse City, and they talk to me, and they're like, "Hey," I'm like, "Oh, who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm so-and-so's dad." And then they just, we sit there and we talk for the next half hour. It's so, I don't know. It has been such a rewarding experience, and
it's a family.
Yeah, it definitely, and and not only thanks to you guys, but Rich Spicer as well. I mean, we wouldn't be here without him either, and I'm very thankful for that guy. He continues to help me every day. I talk to him very often, and yeah, just looking forward to another great football season coming up, and another great baseball season as well.
Sounds good.
We love being a part of your journey, and we can wish you the continued success. And quickly before we go, if somebody wants to see the Pit Spitters games and hear your play-by-play, it's a website, right?
Yeah, so if you want to go to a game, just go to pitspitters.com and you'll see all the ticket and information there, or give the ticket people a call there. Ben and Ian, they both do a phenomenal job at the sales office up there. I mean, we always have second highest attendance in the league every year.
Nice.
It's kind of hard to beat the Madison Mallards. They bring in like 10,000 a night. But if you wanna watch or listen to my games instead, and that'll be free, go to there's an app you can download. It's the Northwoods League Plus app or NWL Plus, and just set your favorite team for the Traverse City Pit Spitters, and then make sure you're I'll only be on during home games. We don't do away games anymore. I'll stream my games from the road, like radio style, if you will. But yeah, we do that, and pregame always starting right at 5 minutes before first pitch, and that's when you'll see me, you'll hear me, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, Jackson Heiden, thank you so much for being with us this morning on Curry's Hot Stove League, and we look forward to working with you through the summer as we get ready for Wildcat football.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
All right, and we'll talk to you off the air, Jen. Thanks again. And I guess we'll have Sheriff Brian back again next week.
Yeah, Pat Curry will be back in the studio live.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll regret it or not, because it might still be 40 degrees outside.
They better bring the warm weather back with them. That's hopefully all I'm saying.
All right, we'll continue with B1039, and thanks for being with us. And Kyle Wells coming up next. And that's the wrong outro. Let me get the. Well, I
it's the weather.
It's
the weather.
Night. It's the weather. Yeah,
blame the weather.
It's putting the wrong thing in. So here we are. All right, so let's put that in and cue that up. And here comes the official outro now.